I should have known the moment Vanessa walked back into our home that something had shifted. She glowed. Literally. Not from sunburn or spa treatments, but from something deeper, something I couldn't quite place. Her hair was styled differently, like someone else had run their hands through it, and her smile was just a little too satisfied. I brushed it off at first. After all, she had just come back from a girls' trip to Cancun. Maybe it was just the vacation high. That night, she made my favorite dinner, pan-seared salmon with lemon risotto and a crisp white wine chilled just the way I liked it. She even wore the red sundress I'd bought her 2 years ago, the one that always hugged her in the right places and made me think unholy thoughts every time she bent over. The candlelight flickered on her skin, and for a moment, I felt like I was staring across the table at a version of her I hadn't seen in years. She sipped her wine and gave me this almost bashful smile. "There's something I've been thinking about," she said, her voice light, almost teasing. "Okay." She bit her lip, something she usually only did when she was nervous or turned on. My stomach tensed, but I didn't know why. "I've been doing some reading," she started, "and talking with the girls." Oh, whenever talking with the girls preceded a sentence, it usually meant trouble. She reached across the table, laid her hand over mine. "Have you ever thought about us having an open marriage?" I froze. For a second, I thought she was joking. I actually laughed, dry, awkward, disbelieving. "What? I mean, really," she continued, her eyes sparkling in a way that made my skin crawl. "It's not as taboo as it used to be. I read this book, Sex at Dawn, I think, and it made me think. Maybe it's time we try something different." "Vanessa, you want to fuck other people?" She flinched a little, but didn't back down. "Not just about sex," she insisted. "It's about experiences, growth, exploration." "You've already explored something, haven't you?" I asked. "Is that what this is?" Her face twitched, but she covered it quickly with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Don't be paranoid. This is about us. Strengthening us." Bullshit. She was glowing like a woman who had just been fucked sideways. Probably by someone taller, buffer, and more tan than me. "Cancun. Right. I don't want to share you," I said quietly. "I married you. Not the idea of you going out and getting your needs met somewhere else." She shrugged, as if my discomfort was a pebble in her shoe. "Monogamy isn't natural, babe. It's conditioning. People grow. Sometimes they need more than one person can give." I pushed my chair back. "So this is where we are now. I just want to talk about it," she said, playing with the rim of her wine glass. "No decisions yet. Just think about it." I couldn't eat after that. I went out to the backyard, sat in the dark and stared up at the sky, trying to remember what love used to feel like with her. Not obligation. Not betrayal dressed up as enlightenment. Just love. The next night, we had dinner with her best friend Paige. Vanessa acted normal, laughing at Paige's stories, sipping wine like she hadn't just dropped a nuclear bomb in our marriage the night before. But Paige couldn't meet my eyes. Not once. She smiled politely, picked at her pasta, and barely spoke above a whisper. Every time Vanessa brought up the trip, "Oh my God, remember that club on Thursday? Or that guy at the beach bar who hit on both of us?" Paige's expression stiffened. I watched her. I knew that look. Guilt. She was hiding something. Later, after Vanessa went to the kitchen, I asked Paige how the trip had been. Simple, innocent. But her voice cracked. "It was fine," she said too quickly. "Just, sun and drinks." "Who else went with you guys?" I pressed. She blinked. "Just the usual girls." Lie. I knew it then. Vanessa wasn't suggesting an open marriage. She was justifying something that already happened. And Paige, sweet, socially awkward Paige, was stuck in the middle of a lie she didn't know how to carry. Vanessa came back, and the conversation snapped back into light laughter, but the damage was done. I barely slept that night. My wife, was not the woman I thought she was. She came home with sand in her suitcase and someone else's scent on her skin, and now she wanted to talk about boundaries and experiences as if I should be grateful. The sex that night, if you could call it that, was different. She initiated, which was rare. She kissed me hungrily, almost desperately, but it felt like performance. Her body was warm, responsive, wet even, but her mind was somewhere else. When she straddled me, grinding down slow and deep, she whispered, "Does this feel good, baby?" And I swear to God, I wondered who she imagined was underneath her. I almost stopped her right there, but I didn't. I let it happen. Because I needed to know what it felt like to be inside her again, to remember what we had before it slipped away completely. When it was over, she rolled off me with a satisfied sigh and fell asleep fast. I stared at the ceiling for hours. The line had been drawn. She had stepped over it. And even though she hadn't admitted it yet, I fucking knew, that someone else had already been inside her. But I wasn't going to play the fool. Not this time. She wanted open? Fine. Let's see what happens when reality slaps her back harder than her little fantasy ever could. I couldn't stop thinking about Paige's eyes. The way they danced around the room that night, never settling on mine for more than a second. The stiffness in her voice, the way her wine glass trembled slightly every time Vanessa mentioned something from the trip. It all screamed guilt. Not her own, maybe, but guilt by association. The next morning, after Vanessa left for work, I started digging. Not because I didn't trust her. No, because I didn't believe a goddamn word coming out of her mouth anymore. She said she went to Tulum with the girls. Claimed it was a week of margaritas, matching bikinis, and ocean breeze therapy. No drama, no guys, just finding themselves. The kind of sugar-coated nonsense you feed a clueless husband when you've been getting railed by a stranger in a hotel cabana. I pulled up her Instagram first. Nothing seemed out of place. Group selfies, beach sunsets, a picture of her and Paige at some jungle ruin. But the tags were all oddly vague. No geotags. No tagged friends. A few blurry shots of cocktails that could have come from any resort in the world. When I clicked on the comments, I noticed something weird. None of the other girls commented. In fact, none of them even liked the photos. Curious, I checked Paige's page next. She hadn't posted a single photo from the trip. Not one. Her last post was from over a month ago, a picture of her cat. So I went deeper. I looked at the metadata on Vanessa's photos. Yeah, I know, paranoid husband energy, but I wasn't about to sit there and ignore the sirens blaring in my gut. And sure enough, the timestamp on one of the beach photos said it was taken 3 days after she said they returned. Another had a completely different date embedded in the file. That was strike one. Then I looked up the names of the other girls she claimed were on the trip. Erica, Tanya, Liv. I didn't have them as contacts, but I knew their handles. I found Tanya's account quickly. She had been posting selfies from her downtown apartment all week. Same with Erica, multiple pictures from a friend's birthday party. Liv was in Colorado visiting family. None of them had left the damn country. So who the hell was she really with? My stomach dropped. Later that evening, I brought it up casually over dinner. She was scrolling through her phone, fork pushing her chicken around like she wasn't really hungry. So, Erica posted a picture from her rooftop the day you said she was with you. She didn't look up. Yeah, she left early. She posted 5 days into the trip. Vanessa paused, her fingers hovering above the screen. Oh, right. Maybe I'm thinking of someone else. I don't know. I was drinking a lot. Can't remember the whole week exactly. Strike two. And Liv posted pictures with her parents in Aspen. Her voice got tighter. Okay, what are you getting at? I met her eyes. I'm just saying, the timeline doesn't add up. She sighed, put her phone down, and gave me the most patronizing smile I've ever seen on her face. You're spiraling. This is exactly what I was worried about. You're turning into that guy. The jealous, insecure husband who can't handle the idea of his wife having a little freedom. Freedom. She made it sound like I was the one putting shackles on her, not the one being lied to. Her voice got cooler, more practiced. Like she'd rehearsed it. Honestly, this is why I wanted to talk about the open marriage idea. Because I knew this would happen eventually. You'd start snooping, panicking. You can't stand the idea of not being in control. I can't stand being lied to, Vanessa. God, she snapped. Not everything is a lie. You think you're some detective now because you checked a few Instagram tags? No, I said, keeping my voice even. I think something happened on that trip that you're not telling me. And I think Paige knows. That's when she froze, just for a split second. Her expression didn't change much, but I saw it. A flicker, a flinch, a flash of fear before she swallowed it back down. Leave Paige out of this, she said firmly, which told me everything. After dinner, she went to take a bath. I watched her walk down the hallway, towel in hand, back straight. No guilt, no apology, just distance. She closed the door behind her. I heard the water running. I sat on the edge of the couch in silence. A few minutes later, I heard the faint sound of her phone buzzing in the kitchen. She'd left it unlocked. A rookie move for someone with something to hide. I don't know what I expected. Dick pics, steamy messages, some shadowy lover named Mark or Adrian. But it wasn't that. It was Paige. A message from her, time-stamped that afternoon. I can't keep covering for you. He deserves to know. Another one from last week. I'm sick over this. You said it was just a fling. Why are you still talking to him? And one more, buried in the archive. If he finds out, I'm done. I can't be part of this anymore. My heart beat so loud in my ears, I almost didn't hear the water stop. I locked the phone and set it down. The next day, I ran into Paige at the coffee shop on 3rd. Total coincidence. She looked like hell, tired, hair up, oversized hoodie. Not her usual polished self. When she saw me, her eyes widened, and she froze mid-step, like a deer caught in headlights. Hey, I said, voice calm. Got a minute? She hesitated, then slowly nodded. As we sat down across from each other, she fidgeted with her sleeve, biting her lip. How was the trip? I asked. Her jaw clenched. Please don't do this here. So it wasn't a girl's trip? She stared at her hands, then looked up at me. I can't talk about it. Not now. You already did, Paige, I said softly. Your text to Vanessa? Her face crumpled, the guilt hitting like a wave. Shit. And right then, I knew the dam was about to break. But I didn't push further. Not yet. I stood up, looked her in the eye, and said, when you're ready to stop lying for her, call me. Then I walked out, because I knew the truth was coming, and it was going to hurt like hell. Paige's call came 3 days later. I'd been expecting it, waiting for it, really, but when her name lit up my phone, my stomach still tightened like a fist. I answered on the second ring. Can we talk? She asked, her voice thin, shaky. Please. Not at your house. Not anywhere Vanessa might see us. Where? She named a quiet cafe on the far side of town, the kind of place where nobody knows anybody and nobody cares enough to listen in. Neutral ground. Half an hour later, she walked in wearing a soft gray sweater that swallowed her frame, hair pulled into a low ponytail. She looked exhausted, not just physically, but the kind of tired that sits in your bones. When she spotted me, she hesitated at the door, like she was still deciding whether this was the worst idea she'd ever had. She finally approached, lowering herself into the seat across from me. Thanks for meeting me, she whispered. Paige, what's going on? I asked, keeping my voice low. You said you needed to talk. Her hands trembled as she wrapped them around her coffee cup. She didn't drink, just held it like she needed the warmth to keep herself from falling apart. I wasn't supposed to get involved, she murmured. I told her I didn't want any part of this. I told her it was wrong. My pulse started pounding. So it did happen, I said quietly. She met someone. Paige's eyes filled instantly, glassy and wide. She looked away, like she couldn't stand to see the hurt she knew she was about to dump in my lap. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I didn't know what else to do. She swore it was just a fling. She begged me not to tell you. Said the trip was already booked as a girl's trip, and she just, Paige swallowed hard, used it as cover. I leaned back, exhaling slowly. I'd expected it. Hell, I'd practically known. But hearing it spoken aloud made the room tilt. Paige covered her mouth with a shaking hand. It wasn't a girl's trip at all. The others didn't even know about it. She flew down there to meet him. Who is he? I asked, though the name didn't matter as much as the answer. Paige shook her head. Some guy she met online. Or through a friend of a friend, I don't know. She never told me his name. Just that he was exciting. The word hit me like a punch. Exciting. As if I wasn't. As if our life, the one we built together, had somehow become too dull for her. She told me it only happened once. Paige added quickly, her voice breaking. But that's not true. It wasn't just one night. It was all week. And she told me. God, I hate saying this. She told me it made her realize she wanted more freedom. That she'd bring it up with you eventually. By asking for an open marriage, I said bitterly. Paige nodded. She said if you agreed, she wouldn't have to hide anything. And if you didn't, Paige hesitated, looking suddenly nauseous. She said maybe that meant you weren't compatible anymore. The words burned. So that's it. I asked. She cheats on me and then dresses it up as personal growth? Paige flinched like I'd struck her. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I tried to talk her out of it. I told her she was being selfish. I didn't want to lie to you, but she was my friend, and I. Her breath hitched. I didn't know what to do. Why tell me now? I asked softly. She looked up then, eyes shimmering. Because you deserve the truth. and I can't keep watching her pretend nothing happened. It's tearing me apart. There was a long silence between us, heavy and thick with things neither of us knew how to say. I stared at the condensation sliding down my untouched glass of water, trying to steady my breathing. Paige spoke first. When you asked about the trip the other night, I couldn't even look at you. It felt like lying to your face. It was lying to my face. I know. Her voice broke completely, and I hate myself for it. Before I could respond, she reached across the table and touched my hand. Not a romantic gesture, not even flirtation, just an instinctive attempt to comfort. The touch sent a jolt through me anyway, unwanted but undeniable. She pulled her hand back quickly, cheeks flushing. Sorry, I feel terrible. I studied her for a moment. Paige wasn't the culprit here. She was collateral damage, dragged into Vanessa's mess, just like me. You didn't cheat on me, I said. You're not the one who lied. She closed her eyes, exhaling shakily. Thank you, but it doesn't make it easier. I should have told you sooner. I know that. Why didn't you? She hesitated. Because I didn't want to lose her friendship. And because I didn't want to hurt you. You're hurting me now, I said gently. I know. Tears slipped down her cheeks. But you deserve to know the truth. All of it. I reached across the table this time, placing my hand over hers. She didn't pull away. For a moment, we just sat like that, two people connected by betrayal that neither of us had chosen. Two people who weren't supposed to share anything more than dinners and holiday parties and surface-level friendship. But something shifted in that quiet cafe. Not romance. Not desire. Just a connection built on shared grief. When we stood to leave, Paige wiped her eyes and whispered, "Please don't hate her. Or me." "I don't hate you," I said. "But Vanessa, that was a different story. I didn't plan the confrontation. It wasn't a strategic move or a dramatic setup. It happened the way these things often do, spontaneously, violently, and far messier than I wanted it to be. I came home late, hours after my meeting with Paige. I had driven around the city for what felt like an eternity, mind racing, hands numb on the wheel. There's something surreal about having your entire reality exposed and ripped out from under you in a quiet coffee shop while an espresso machine hisses nearby. I should have felt angry. I should have screamed. But mostly, I just felt hollow. When I walked into the house, Vanessa was on the couch in yoga pants and a tank top, her bare feet propped on the ottoman, some Netflix series humming in the background. She looked up and smiled like nothing had happened. "Hey babe, you okay? You look tired." I stood in the doorway, staring at her, coat still on. She muted the TV, concern touching her voice. "Everything all right? You fucked someone in Tulum." The words came out too flat, too cold. They didn't sound like me. She blinked, and for a moment, there was nothing. Just silence and that frozen expression like a deer about to sprint. Then came the slow exhale. I figured Paige would crack eventually. So, no denial. No feigned shock. Just acceptance. Just another mask sliding into place. "I wanted to tell you," she said quickly, setting the remote down. "I really did. But I didn't want to blow up our marriage over one mistake." "One," I said, stepping further into the room. "You spent an entire week with him. That's not a mistake. That's a fucking relationship." "It wasn't like that." "Then what was it, Vanessa?" My voice rose without permission. "Was it an emotional detox? A wellness retreat where you happened to land on some stranger's dick?" She stood now, hands up, placating. "Okay, I deserve that. But it's not that simple." "Really?" Because Paige made it sound pretty simple. "You met a guy, you planned a lie, you spent a week getting off while I sat at home thinking you were on a girl's trip." Her jaw tightened. "Don't make it sound so cheap." "It was cheap. That stung." She flinched, looked away. "It wasn't just sex," she said after a beat. My chest tightened. "That's supposed to make me feel better?" "No," she rubbed her temples. "I mean, it was sex, obviously, but it also made me realize something. About myself. About what I need." "And what do you need, Vanessa?" She met my eyes, and what I saw there broke something in me. "More," she said softly. The silence that followed was deafening. "You have a husband who loves you," I said. "You have a home, a life, a marriage, and that's not enough?" "I'm not saying you're not enough," she said quickly, stepping toward me. "I'm saying I'm evolving. I'm learning about myself. I've changed, and I don't want to pretend that I haven't." I turned away, jaw clenched. "So that's why you want an open marriage," I muttered. "Because cheating wasn't thrilling enough. You want to make it official now." She didn't respond. Was this guy better? I asked, not sure if I even wanted the answer. Was the sex that good? That's not fair. No, but it's honest. Vanessa walked over, placed her hand on my chest. I didn't move. I didn't push her away, but I didn't respond either. It wasn't about him. It was about me, she said. I didn't want to hurt you. I thought maybe if we could explore, together, we'd both grow. I stepped back, her hand falling away. You didn't want to hurt me? You planned this. You manipulated Paige. You lied to my face every night leading up to that trip. She looked down, ashamed, but not sorry. There's a difference, and I felt it in my gut. I'm not the bad guy here, she said softly. My laugh was sharp. Aren't you? She opened her mouth, closed it, then sat back down on the couch like her legs couldn't hold her anymore. Her eyes were glassy, but no tears fell. I didn't expect to fall apart over this, she said. But I'm not going to apologize for figuring myself out. You're not going to apologize, I repeated, stunned. I'm sorry I hurt you, she corrected. But I'm not sorry I had the experience. That was it. I turned and left. I didn't know where I was going. I just needed to not be there. Not in that house. Not with her. I drove without direction, hands gripping the wheel too tight, trying not to scream. The hurt was raw, but the rage underneath, it was volcanic. Eventually, I parked in an empty lot near the old park where we used to take Sunday walks. I just sat there, head back against the seat, eyes burning, chest tight. I don't know how long I sat there before there was a tap on my window. I looked up, startled. It was Paige. She held up a coffee cup, her other hand tucked deep into her coat. Her eyes were swollen, red, as if she hadn't slept either. I had a feeling you'd be here, she said when I rolled the window down. You following me now? No, she said, managing the tiniest smile. Just hoping. I didn't speak. She circled around and slid into the passenger seat. I told her I was done covering for her, she said. And she didn't even fight it. She just said, I figured, like it was inevitable. I looked at her, at the lines of guilt etched across her face. She'd been dragged into the storm too, I realized. She didn't deserve this either. I confronted her, I said finally. She didn't deny it. Didn't even try. Paige looked at me for a long time, her expression softening. God, she whispered. I'm so sorry. She reached out again. Her hand brushed my arm. Just a light touch, but I felt it like an electric current. I closed my eyes. The cold air inside the car felt heavier now. Do you want to be alone? She asked. No. The word escaped before I could think. She leaned over and hugged me. Tight, firm, grounding. I held her back. At first, it was comfort, but it lingered, longer than it should have. I didn't want to let go. Paige didn't mean to stay that long. She was only supposed to check on me, make sure I wasn't spiraling in the dark like some heartbroken cliche. But 1 hour turned into 2, and 2 into nearly 4. We never moved from the car. The windows fogged slightly from our breath, and the world beyond the glass felt distant and irrelevant. When she finally said, I should go, neither of us reached for the door handle right away. You don't have to, I said. That pause lingered. She looked down at her hands in her lap, then up at me, eyes clouded with guilt and something else. Something she didn't want to name yet. I do, she whispered. Because if I stay, I might say something I shouldn't. It hung there between us. Loaded, unspoken, and honest. She left with a quiet goodbye and a promise to check on me later. I watched her walk away, swallowed by streetlight shadows, the air between us still vibrating with everything we hadn't said. The next morning, Vanessa was gone before I woke up. No note, no text, just her side of the bed, cold and untouched. I found a half-drunk glass of red wine on the kitchen counter and her favorite mug still wet in the sink. She'd been home, but she hadn't wanted to see me, and I didn't chase her. Instead, I went about the day like a man holding himself together with tape and staples. I worked from home, responded to emails I barely read, drank too many coffees, and stared at my phone every 15 minutes, wondering if Paige would text first. She did. Just checking in. You okay? I wasn't, but I wrote, yeah, thanks for last night. Anytime. Later that evening, she stopped by. Not planned. Not dramatic. Just a quiet knock at the door and her voice through the wood. It's just me. She was holding a Tupperware of soup, because apparently heartbreak makes you look like someone who needs feeding. I let her in, and we sat on the couch while the news played in the background, neither of us watching it. The soup sat untouched on the coffee table. Paige curled her feet beneath her, sipping wine, eyes on her lap. I lied to you before, she said finally. Not about the trip, but before the trip. I glanced at her. What do you mean? I knew, she said. I knew she was planning something, even before she booked the flight. I went still. She told me one night at dinner. Said she was thinking of shaking things up. I thought she meant changing her hair or going to a yoga retreat or something stupid. But no, she was already talking to him. She called it an experiment. She said she felt like her body didn't belong to her anymore, that she wanted to be wanted by someone new. The words stung even secondhand. I told her she was playing with fire. Paige continued, that you didn't deserve that kind of betrayal. But she kept saying, he's strong. He'll understand. Like cheating was a fucking growth exercise. I rubbed my face with both hands, trying to breathe through the storm of it. I should have told you, she said. I almost did. So many times. You were stuck between two people, I murmured. I get it. But I don't want to be anymore. She shifted slightly toward me. Not after everything she's done. And not after how I've seen her treat you. Our eyes locked. That tension from the car, it hadn't gone anywhere. It had just gotten quieter, deeper. It hummed beneath every word. You were always kind, she said, her voice low. Always patient. Even when Vanessa was. Vanessa. I smiled bitterly. I was loyal to the wrong person. No, Paige said, almost sharply. You were loyal. Period. That's rare. She didn't deserve it, but that doesn't mean it was wrong to give. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then, while reaching for her wine glass, her fingers brushed mine. It was nothing. Just an accident. Bare skin against skin. But it was like someone lit a fuse between us. We both froze. Her hand stayed there a second too long before she pulled away. I'm sorry, she said quietly. I shook my head. Don't be. The air was different now. Charged. Like something unspoken had been named without words. I'm not trying to make things weird, Paige said. They were already weird. I replied, my smile crooked. But no, you're not. We didn't talk about the touch after that. We both went back to sipping wine, watching TV, making small talk. But it lingered. The way her thigh pressed just slightly into mine on the couch. The way she tilted her body toward me when she laughed. The way her gaze held just a little longer when our eyes met. At one point, she leaned back and closed her eyes, sighing deeply. I feel like I've been holding my breath for weeks, she said. You're not the only one. A pause. Did it help? Telling me? She nodded. Eyes still closed. I hated lying to you. It made me sick. Well, now you're on Team Truth. She smiled faintly. Yeah, I just didn't expect to care this much. I turned toward her. About what? About you, she said. Her eyes opened, met mine. Silence. I didn't move. Neither did she. But the air between us crackled with something heavy. Real. We were sitting on a knife's edge, and we both knew it. I stood up first. Not because I wanted to break it, but because I needed to. I should let you go, I said. She nodded slowly, following me to the door. As I opened it for her, she turned back. I'm still your friend, she said. I looked at her. You're more honest than my wife. She didn't smile at that. Instead, she stepped out into the night, hesitated, then said, I'm not proud of what I kept secret, but I'm here now. If you need anything, I'll be here. I watched her walk down the driveway, and for a moment, all I wanted was to call her back. Not for comfort, not out of desperation, but because the weight we were both carrying felt lighter when she was near. And that was the most dangerous part of all. The night started off innocently enough. I didn't know then that by morning, everything would feel different. Vanessa texted me just after 6. Going out with Liam tonight. Don't wait up. No explanation. No apology. Just that. There was something sharp about the way she used his name so casually, like she was trying to provoke a reaction, or worse, no longer cared if she did. She wasn't asking for permission anymore. She was just doing what she wanted. And apparently, that now included parading her exploration through the front door of our fractured marriage. I stared at the message, reread it twice, then tossed my phone on the couch like it had burned me. I didn't respond. What was the point? She was out chasing freedom, chasing someone else's hands and lips and attention while I sat in the ruins of everything I thought we were. I poured myself a drink. Then another. The house felt too big, too quiet. Every room echoed with memories I didn't want. The blanket on the couch still smelled faintly like her perfume, and it made me irrationally angry. I opened the windows just to get the scent out. It was nearly 9 when I got a knock at the door. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened it, Paige stood there in a raincoat, a bottle of wine in one hand, and a tentative smile on her lips. "I had a weird feeling," she said. "Call it a gut thing. Thought maybe you shouldn't be alone tonight." For a second, I just looked at her, and then I stepped aside. She slipped in, brushing a few wet strands of hair from her face. Her cheeks were flushed from the wind and drizzle, and she looked beautiful. Casual, real. The opposite of everything Vanessa had been lately. We sat on the couch and opened the wine. Talked about nothing and everything. The way people do when they're trying not to acknowledge the gravity sitting between them. "She told me she's seeing him again," I said after a while. "Like it's some new normal I just have to accept." Paige winced. "She's not even hiding it anymore. She doesn't need to. She thinks the open marriage excuse covers it." Paige swirled her wine in her glass. "That's not what an open marriage is supposed to be. No, it's what a coward calls it when they want to cheat with a clear conscience." Silence settled for a moment. Then Paige whispered, "I wish I'd stopped her sooner." "You tried." "I didn't try hard enough." I looked over at her. Her eyes were wet, but not from tears. Just overwhelmed. And honest. "She's my best friend," she said. "But I don't even recognize her anymore. She's not the woman I married." "Maybe she never was," Paige said gently. We let that sit for a while. I refilled our glasses. The wine softened the edges of everything. Grief, guilt, frustration. There was no pretending we were just friends anymore. Not really. Paige curled up beside me, her legs tucked beneath her. She was closer now than she had been before, and not by accident. "I hate what she did to you," she said. Her voice was quieter now, warmer. She looked at me in that way you never expect someone to. Like she saw all the broken pieces and didn't flinch. "You didn't deserve it," she added. "You never did." Something shifted. A breath caught in my throat. I didn't know if it was the wine or the months of emotional buildup between us, but I reached out, brushed a stray curl from her cheek. She didn't pull away. Her hand found my forearm, fingertips light, unsure. We were inches apart now, the space between us humming with hesitation and something deeper, heavier. "I don't want to be like her," she whispered. "You're nothing like her," I said. She swallowed, eyes flicking to my lips. "I don't know what this is. What we are." "Neither do I admitted. "But I know it feels real." That was the moment. We leaned in at the same time, slow, hesitant, like gravity had its own plan. Our lips touched, soft at first. A question asked in silence. Her hand slid to the back of my neck, my fingers resting lightly on her waist. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't lust. It was relief. Connection. Two people lost in the same storm, finding shelter in each other. The kiss deepened, her body pressing into mine. She tasted like red wine and rain, her breath warm against my cheek. I pulled her closer, feeling the heat rise between us. But then, she stopped, pulled back. Her chest rose and fell in fast, shallow breaths. Her fingers were still tangled in my shirt. "We can't," she said. "Not like this. Not while it still feels like betrayal." I nodded, heart racing, throat tight. "You're right." She let out a shaky breath. "I want to. God, I do. But I don't want to look in the mirror tomorrow and wonder if I became the thing I hated." "I would never let that happen," I said softly. "I know." She reached for my hand, squeezing it. "That's why I need to go before I change my mind." I walked her to the door. It was still raining lightly outside. She stepped out into it, then turned back and looked at me like she wanted to say something else, but didn't. "Good night," she said instead. "Night, Paige." And just like that, she was gone. I closed the door behind her and leaned my forehead against it, exhaling into the dark. We hadn't crossed the line tonight, but we'd stood right on the edge. And next time, I wasn't sure we'd stop. We didn't talk about the kiss. For the next few days, Paige and I drifted into a strange kind of silence. Not avoidance, not awkwardness, but a heavy, mutual understanding that something important had happened. And we weren't ready to admit how much we wanted it to happen again. Still, she checked in every day. A text in the morning. "You okay today?" Sometimes a link to an article she knew I'd find funny. A photo of her cat curled in some absurd position. Nothing flirtatious. Nothing overt. But the undertone was there. Late at night, I'd lie in bed and stare at my phone, rereading the messages we weren't sending. Her name always hovered near the top of my screen, a quiet gravity pulling at me. The part of me that still clung to decency kept my replies short, safe. But the part of me that remembered the feel of her lips, soft, hesitant, real, ached to call her, to feel that closeness again. Vanessa didn't seem to notice. Or maybe she just didn't care. She came and went like a roommate now, moving through the house with detached efficiency. Some nights, she didn't come home until after midnight. When she did, I was always asleep. She never asked questions, never offered answers. One evening, I heard her on the phone in the kitchen. Her voice was low, husky in a way I hadn't heard in months. She giggled. It made me nauseous. I poured myself a whiskey and texted Paige. Can't sleep. You up? She replied almost immediately. Yeah, same. We didn't say anything else for a few minutes. Then, I miss talking to you in person. I stared at the screen. Then I typed, me too. Then deleted it. Instead, I wrote, want to come by tomorrow? Just to talk? She didn't answer right away. I watched the dots pulse on my screen for what felt like forever. Then, yes. The next night, Paige showed up wearing jeans and an oversized hoodie, hair in a loose bun, no makeup. She looked like comfort. She looked like home. We didn't talk about Vanessa. We didn't talk about the kiss. Instead, we made popcorn, put on a movie we'd both seen a dozen times, and sat a respectable 2 feet apart on the couch. At least for the first half hour. Then she laughed at a stupid joke in the film and leaned just a little too close. Our shoulders touched. Neither of us moved away. Eventually, I paused the movie. I've been thinking about that night, I said. She didn't look at me. Me too. I haven't been able to stop. She nodded, eyes fixed on the screen. I keep telling myself it was just the moment, that we were both vulnerable, that it wasn't real. Was it? She turned to me, finally. I don't know. That's what scares me. I swallowed hard. What if it was? Silence. She broke it with a whisper. Then I don't know what to do. Neither did I. All I knew was this. The more time we spent pretending we weren't drawn to each other, the more impossible it became to keep pretending. The tension was different now. It wasn't explosive. It was slow, burning, intimate. Every glance lingered. Every brush of skin buzzed. She shifted on the couch, pulling her legs up and tucking them beneath her, facing me more fully. I keep thinking, she said, about how she had everything. You, this house, a real relationship. And she threw it away. She didn't just throw it away, I said. She set it on fire and called it evolution. Paige gave a sad smile. And now she wants the freedom to keep burning everything. She can have it. Paige looked at me, her eyes soft and searching. And what do you want? It was the first time anyone had asked me that since this whole mess started. I didn't answer right away. I didn't have the words. But I reached for her hand, slow, deliberate. And this time, she didn't pull away. Our fingers laced together. She exhaled, her shoulders easing. I shouldn't feel this close to you, she said. It feels wrong. But it doesn't. I know, I said. I've been telling myself the same thing. We're not doing anything wrong, she added quickly. Not really. No. But it's getting harder to pretend this isn't something. Her thumb brushed mine. The softness of that motion sent shivers up my arm. I think I've always admired the way you loved her, Paige said. You were devoted. Real. And I kept wondering how she could look at that and still want more. I looked at her. I see you now, I said quietly. And I don't think it was ever about me not being enough. Our eyes locked again. It would have been so easy to close the space between us, to lean in, to fall. But we didn't, because we still had just enough restraint left to know what we were on the edge of. So instead, we sat there, fingers intertwined, breathing the same air. No promises, no declarations. Just two people tangled in the aftermath of someone else's destruction. And slowly, undeniably, becoming each other's refuge. The storm rolled in just after sunset. I'd seen the forecast, warnings flashing on my phone all day, but I didn't expect it to hit so violently. Thunder shook the windows. Rain came down in sheets, loud and relentless. Then, around 8:47 p.m., the power cut. Everything blinked off. The house fell into thick, sudden silence. Only the sound of water slamming against the roof and wind scraping branches along the siding remained. I stood in the kitchen holding my phone, the glow from the screen casting everything in blue and shadow. Vanessa wasn't home. She'd texted earlier. Staying at Liam's tonight. Don't wait up. Of course. No surprise anymore. Just another numb checkmark in the growing list of ways she'd removed herself from our life. I lit a few candles, poured myself a drink, sat in the living room surrounded by flickering light and the low, distant rumble of thunder. The silence was haunting. It made the house feel like a stranger, every room echoing too much. Then my phone buzzed. Paige. Saw the outage on the city map. Are you okay? Power's out. I'm good. You sure? Honestly. No. The three little dots appeared, then stopped. A minute later, a knock at the door. I didn't have to ask. I already knew it was her. When I opened it, she stood there wrapped in a raincoat, hair damp, face flushed from the cold. She held a flashlight in one hand and a grocery bag in the other. I brought chocolate, she said, and battery-powered candles. And, she smiled faintly, someone who can sit with you while the world drowns. I stepped aside. Come in. She peeled off her coat and boots, revealing a hoodie and leggings, comfort clothes. She moved through the space like she belonged there, placing the candles on the table, setting out chocolate, lighting warmth in every corner of a house that had gone cold for too long. We settled into the couch with a blanket draped across both our legs. Candlelight flickered over her face, casting soft shadows that made her eyes look impossibly deep. The air was thick with silence and storm. I always hated thunder as a kid, she said, breaking the quiet. It made me feel like the sky was mad at us. I used to love it, I replied. I liked how it made everything else stop. Like the world had to pause and pay attention. She looked at me. You're good at pretending you're okay. I'm good at staying quiet, I said. Not the same thing. She nodded, and her hand found mine beneath the blanket. We sat like that for a long time, the storm raging outside, our fingers intertwined inside a pocket of warmth that felt both dangerous and necessary. You know this isn't just comfort anymore, right? I asked quietly. Her eyes didn't leave mine. I know. I'm scared to want this. Me too. Her voice was barely a whisper, but it was enough. I turned toward her. So did she. The kiss came slowly, like it had been waiting in the air all along, building across weeks of looks, touches, confessions, regrets. This wasn't the hesitant kiss from before, laced with guilt and restraint. This was hunger wrapped in tenderness, desire born of understanding. Her hand slid to my jaw, mine to her waist. The blanket shifted as we leaned into each other, bodies warming where they touched. Her breath hitched as I pulled her closer, lips exploring, learning. My fingers tangled in her hair. She pressed into me like she'd been holding back too long. But we didn't rush. Every movement was careful, reverent. Two people crossing a line they could never uncross, but doing it fully awake. Her thighs slid over mine as she shifted into my lap, arms around my neck. Her body felt electric, like it was molded to mine, like she belonged there. We kissed like we were trying to erase the parts of ourselves we hated. Her mouth was soft and urgent, and I wanted to memorize it. The taste of her, the feel of her fingers on my neck, the way she sighed when I pressed her just a little closer. But then, she stopped. Not abruptly, not like before, just slowed. Her lips lingered against mine, her breath brushing my cheek. She pulled back slightly, eyes still closed. I can't, she whispered, and my chest tightened, not with disappointment, but with something else, something gentler. I want to, she added quickly. God, I want to. But if we go further, I need it to be real, not just because we're angry or alone. I nodded. I don't want you to be a reaction to Vanessa, she said. You deserve more than that. So do you, I murmured. She rested her forehead against mine. We stayed there, wrapped in each other, not speaking. No more kissing, just silence and storm and breath. Eventually, she curled up beside me on the couch, her head on my shoulder, our hands still linked under the blanket. I didn't sleep. Not really. I just listened to the rain and held her. And for the first time in weeks, the ache in my chest felt just a little less sharp. Vanessa noticed. Not right away, but it didn't take long. Something shifted in the way she looked at me, subtle at first. Like she was trying to see something on my face that wasn't there before. She became quieter, sharper. She no longer announced when she was going out. She just did it. But when she came home, she hovered, like she was searching for clues. I stopped caring. The guilt that had once weighed heavy on me after that night with Paige had started to give way to clarity. Nothing had happened. Not really. Not in the way that counted. But everything had changed. And I didn't regret it. Paige wasn't an accident. She was gravity I had resisted for too long. The wrongness wasn't in what had happened between us. The wrongness had started long before that, when Vanessa chose someone else and asked me to smile while she did it. A week after the storm, Vanessa broke the silence over dinner. She'd cooked. That alone should have warned me something was off. Pasta, wine, cloth napkins, the kind of meal we hadn't shared in months. She wore lipstick and perfume, sat down with a forced smile, and asked, "How was your day?" Like we were a normal couple. I should have walked away, but I didn't. Halfway through the meal, she set her fork down, tilted her head, and said, "You've been quiet lately. I've had a lot on my mind." She sipped her wine. "You don't ask about Liam anymore." I stared at her, unsure if it was a trap. Should I? She leaned back, arms crossed. "It's just interesting. You were so upset before. Now nothing." "You told me you wanted freedom," I said. "I'm respecting that." Her eyes narrowed. "Or you're seeing someone." I didn't answer. She smirked. "Got it." I stood, collecting my plate. "I didn't say anything," I replied. "You didn't have to." That night, she didn't come home. The next day, Paige texted me. "I think she suspects something. She brought up you last night." "What did she say?" "Just asked if I'd seen you." I lied. We both knew it was unraveling. That evening, Vanessa came home early and caught Paige walking up our driveway with a Tupperware of food. I wasn't even expecting her. She'd texted 10 minutes before to say she had extra stir-fry and thought I'd want some. It was supposed to be harmless. Innocent. Vanessa pulled into the driveway just as Paige reached the porch. The moment froze like a scene in a movie. Car door slamming. Heels on pavement. Paige turning slowly, guilt already on her face. Vanessa's eyes narrowed. "What the fuck are you doing here?" Paige swallowed. "Dropping off dinner." Vanessa laughed, sharp and cruel. "Since when do you cook for my husband?" I stepped outside. "Vanessa," I said, warning in my voice. She looked between us like she'd finally solved the equation. "Oh my God," she said, voice rising. "It's you. You've been with her this whole time." "Nothing happened," Paige said quickly. "Not like you think." "Oh, really? You think I'm stupid?" She turned to me. "You let me be the villain while you fucked my best friend?" "Don't," I snapped. "Don't you dare pretend you're the one who's hurt." She scoffed, eyes blazing. "So it's true." "No," Paige said again. "We haven't." "Save it, Paige," Vanessa snapped. "You're a liar. You've been sniffing around him for years. Don't pretend this just happened." Paige stepped back, hurt flashing across her face. "I didn't mean for this to happen." "You're disgusting," Vanessa spat. "You know what? You deserve each other." "Stop it," I said, stepping between them. "You don't get to come home after weeks with your new boyfriend and act shocked that someone else gives a damn about me." Her expression turned cold. "So it's love now?" she sneered. "You're in love with Paige?" I didn't answer. That silence was its own confession. Vanessa scoffed, turned, and started walking back to her car. "Where are you going?" I asked. She didn't turn around. "To someone who actually respects me." I didn't say what I wanted to. That respect is earned, and she'd lost mine long ago. Later that night, Paige texted me. "I'm sorry. I didn't want it to come out like that." "I know. She hates me now. She hated you the second you stopped covering for her." I stared at the last message for a long time, then typed, "She knows about the kiss now. Do you regret it?" There was a long pause. Then, "No. Do you?" Not for a second. Another pause. Then, "Are we in trouble?" I didn't know if she meant with Vanessa, or emotionally, or if we were standing at the edge of something that could ruin us both. But I wrote, "Probably, but I don't care." And I meant it. The house was too quiet after the explosion. Vanessa didn't come back that night. I wasn't sure if she was with Liam or just driving in circles with the windows down, letting her rage cool into something bitter and cold. Either way, I didn't hear from her. Paige didn't message me either. We were both just waiting for the final collapse. I didn't sleep. I sat on the couch with a drink in one hand, the room dimly lit, her perfume still faint on the blanket Paige had used the last time she'd been over. It made me feel more haunted than comforted. I knew what was coming. The next morning, Vanessa returned. Not quietly. She stormed in like she owned the space, hair messy, wearing sunglasses even indoors. She dropped her keys on the kitchen island like she was slamming down a verdict. I was at the dining table, drinking black coffee. She stood across from me, pulled off her shades, and stared at me with red-rimmed eyes. "You and Paige," she said, no build-up. "Tell me everything." I didn't blink. "There's not much to tell." "Bullshit." Her voice cracked. You kissed her. Yes. When? The night of the storm. She laughed, shaking her head. Unbelievable. You had the audacity to kiss my best friend while I was out with someone else. I stared at her. You had sex with Liam while pretending you were on a girl's trip. That's different. How? She faltered, then crossed her arms. Because you're supposed to be better than me. I was. That stopped her. For a long time, I added, quieter now. But you asked for an open marriage. You wanted freedom. You started living like you weren't accountable to me anymore. That doesn't mean Paige gets a pass, she snapped. She was my friend. She was my friend too, I said, rising slowly. And she was honest with me. She told me the truth when you wouldn't. Vanessa's lip curled. You think you're some kind of victim? No, I said. But I'm not the villain either. She stared at me for a long time. Then something in her face shifted. A flicker of vulnerability broke through the anger. I didn't expect to lose you, she said, almost too quietly to hear. Even after everything. I thought you'd fight. I did fight, I said. You just weren't watching. Her jaw tightened. So what? You're running into Paige's arms now. You think that's love? I think it's peace, I said, which is more than I've had with you for a long time. She looked away, blinking fast. I would have come back to you, she said. That's the problem, I replied. You thought you could leave, destroy everything, then come back like nothing happened. I thought you'd always be here. I was. Until you made it impossible. We stood in silence, the kitchen between us like a battlefield. Then she said it. So that's it. I nodded. That's it. Her throat worked. Her fingers clenched and unclenched at her sides. She didn't cry. Vanessa never cried when it mattered. But her voice dropped when she spoke again, bitter and broken. You ruined everything, she said. You and her. I met her eyes. No, you ended it. You opened the marriage. That was the moment you stopped being my wife. She stared at me, stunned. I picked up my coffee and turned to walk away. Behind me, I heard her voice, quiet, like an echo. You'll regret this. I paused at the stairs but didn't look back. I already regretted staying this long. Later that night, Paige came over. Not in secret this time. Not in fear. She parked right in the driveway, walked up the front steps like she belonged there, and I opened the door before she could even knock. You look like hell, she said gently. Been a long day. I heard. I stepped aside, and she came in slowly, like she was expecting a landmine to go off at any moment. She told you everything? I asked. She sent me a voice message, Paige said, looking down. 3 minutes long. Called me every name in the book. I'm sorry. She said I betrayed her. Paige's voice cracked slightly. And maybe she's right. She betrayed you too, I said. You just finally stopped protecting her. We sat on the couch. This time, we didn't pretend we weren't drawn to each other. We didn't leave space. Paige leaned against me, her head on my shoulder, and I rested my hand on her thigh, grounding us in this strange, quiet aftermath. I didn't mean for it to happen this way, she said. Neither did I. I don't even know what this is between us. It's something, I said, and maybe that's all we need to know right now. She looked up at me, her eyes soft and tired. She's never going to forgive me. She'll learn how it feels. We sat there for a long time, just breathing, sharing silence like it was something sacred. No heat, no sparks, just two people coming to terms with the weight of what had broken and what was beginning to bloom. When Paige finally stood to leave, she turned to me and said, I'm not going to rush this. I wouldn't let you, I replied. She nodded, her eyes searching mine. But I want to be here, she added. That was enough. For now. Vanessa moved out on a Thursday. No dramatic farewell. No slamming of doors or shouted goodbyes. Just the low hum of a moving van in the driveway. A few trips in and out with her things, and the quiet clink of glass when she packed away her stemware. I didn't offer to help. She didn't ask. She kept her eyes down as she moved through the house, ignoring the framed photos we still hadn't taken down. Ignoring me. There was only one moment of stillness, when she passed the living room and saw the blanket Paige had left folded on the couch. She paused, stared at it for maybe half a second, then turned and walked away. By mid-afternoon, she was gone. Just like that, she erased herself from the life we built. And strangely, I didn't feel hollow. I didn't feel victorious either. It wasn't a relief or a loss. It was something more muted. Like closing the final page of a book you stayed with too long. Not because it was good, but because you needed to know how it ended. The house was quiet again, but not empty. Paige didn't come over right away. She gave me space, said she wanted to let the dust settle. That first week without Vanessa was strangely peaceful. I worked, cleaned, slept better than I had in months. I started cooking again, real food, not just takeout and whiskey. On the 6th day, I texted her. "You doing okay?" She replied a minute later. "I miss you. Then come over." 10 minutes passed. Then, on my way, that evening, she walked in without knocking, holding a bag of groceries and wearing the same soft smile she used to wear when we were still pretending everything was innocent. "Made you dinner," she said. I raised an eyebrow. "You didn't even ask if I was hungry." "I'm not here to ask permission," she teased. We made pasta and garlic bread. She played music while she chopped vegetables. I opened a bottle of wine. The conversation flowed easily, stories from her childhood, embarrassing moments in high school, favorite movies, stupid dreams. We laughed more than we should have. There was a moment, while she stood at the stove stirring sauce, when I looked at her and realized something that stopped me cold. I wasn't angry anymore. Not at Vanessa. Not at myself. Not even at what had been lost. Because somehow, in the mess of it all, something better had taken root. Something softer. Realer. After dinner, we sat on the couch, no tension between us this time. Her legs rested across my lap. She looked at me like she wasn't afraid to anymore. "So," she said after a while, "what happens now?" "I don't know," I admitted. "But I know I'm not afraid to find out." She nodded slowly. "It's still weird, isn't it?" "Yeah, but good weird." She reached for my hand. I keep thinking about how all of this started. How broken it felt. And now, I don't know. I feel like we survived something. We did. And now we decide what comes next. We didn't talk about titles. We didn't talk about what we were. That felt too small for what this was turning into. There was no rush to label something that had been slow burned into existence, forged under pressure and honesty and vulnerability. We just sat there, together. Over the next few weeks, Paige became part of my daily rhythm. She didn't move in. We didn't play house. We gave each other space, but stayed close. She came over when she wanted to. I went to hers when the house felt too quiet. We shared playlists, books, bad takeout, long kisses, soft mornings. There were no secrets. No power games. No lies whispered behind someone else's back. It was new, and it was fragile. But it was ours. Vanessa sent one message 2 weeks after she left. "I hope you're happy." I stared at it for a long time. Thought about replying. Thought about telling her everything she'd given up. About how she'd weaponized freedom to justify betrayal. But I didn't need to anymore. I deleted the message and moved on. The last time Paige and I talked about Vanessa, it was quiet. We were sitting on her couch, a movie playing in the background, half watching, half lost in each other's presence. "I keep thinking," she said, "how messed up it is that all of this started with her. That she lit the match, and now here we are." "She didn't light it," I said. "She just burned the house down. We found each other in the rubble." Paige smiled faintly. Romantic. Accurate. We fell into silence again. Then she added, "You know, I don't think I was ever really her best friend. Not the way she made it seem. She never saw you. Not the way I do." She looked at me like she wanted to believe that. Like it still felt foreign to be wanted for the right reasons. "You're not a consolation prize," I told her. "Neither are you." We kissed. It wasn't desperate. It wasn't guilt-ridden or forbidden. It was soft. Intentional. Like two people who had finally earned the right to want something real. By the end of that month, all the photos of Vanessa were boxed up. Not burned. Not shredded. Just put away. I didn't need to erase her to move on. She had her chapter. Now I had mine. And Paige, she was the first person in a long time who made me feel like this story could be worth telling again. Not as a tragedy, but as a beginning.